Hello, it's me, and as promised, I'm going to go ahead and take the concepts that we got with the 3x3x4 and apply it to these puzzles over here. So let me give by way of explanation to those of you who are familiar with these tutorials and these videos. Well, you know exactly what these are. This is the Heaven's Cuboid and the Hell's Cuboid. Just by way of definition, understand that this is a cuboid, which means it's not exactly a cube, it's a rectangular shape. So it approaches but is not exactly the structure of a cube. So anything that's more of a rectangular shape we call a cuboid. Now what these over here are, starting off with a Heaven's Cuboid, this is designed, or this is the brainchild of Crazy Bad Cuber, or Dan Fast, who had a rather brilliant idea to take actually what is in essence a ghost cube. So what exactly is a ghost, or the concept of a ghost cube? Here is a standard 3x3 that we know very well, and this is its ghost equivalent. So you can see some superficial resemblance regarding the structure. But whereas you can tell that this is a face that turns over here, this doesn't turn on the face up here anywhere, it's actually over here. This face here is equivalent to this face, so it seems to turn on the corner. Because you can say, well, maybe this is a corner area over here and that's where it seems to turn. It's not exactly like that though, because what actually happened is that you take a face, turn it over here, chop this down and make another structure altogether called a hexagonal dipyramid, then build it out again, and what you'll end up with is, well, you'll end up with a ghost like this. So what this means is this turn over here is equivalent to this turn over here. And this middle area here, that's equivalent to here, and this bottom area over here, that's equivalent to this. So you can see where that structure comes in. But here's what you don't see, here's what you might not be able to pick up right away, is that this move over here cannot be readily made over here. So this doesn't move here and this doesn't move here. So it looks like this side moves, the middle moves, and then this side moves over here. But in actuality what's happening is this and this is taken off center, hacked down, and then built out again to look like a solved cube, when in reality it's in this position. So this, the way it is now, is actually in this position, which means that I can't move like this, right? So too I can't move like this. So the only way to make the move is to take this edge piece over here, line it up with the center here, take this edge piece over here, line it up over here. Once I do that, then I can move over here. And once I make that move, I can do 90-degree turns in those directions as well. So you can see how the scramble can get pretty crazy, because to solve it, you actually have to solve it off center like this. Because then when you make these turns over here, you're actually solving it like this, you then make this turn over here. So, well, actually, when you solve it, you end up having to make these turns over here. So this is actually in this position over here. So I can't turn this until I turn this into this position, then I can make the turns. So too with here, I've got to turn it off center, and then I can make turns in this angle over here. And then I can basically turn these in 90-degree directions. So I've gone through ghost cube concepts before, and if interested in further demonstrations of that, solving the, see right now here, this is actually partially scrambled here now. Somehow I've got, this doesn't belong here and this doesn't belong here. So I try to put this back in the right position and it doesn't quite work. So you can see how easily that this is scrambled. So this is not back into a solid position. This got messed up over here. Now, the question is, can I get it back? Can I match it up? Well, this doesn't belong over here, and this doesn't belong over here. So just by demonstration, which I think I actually ended up scrambling this by accident, if I try to put this back in the cube form, it doesn't work. So this side doesn't belong here, and this slice doesn't belong here, and this slice doesn't belong. So I think maybe if I turn this here and turn this here, and then do this, aha, brings it back. And then I'm back in the cube form. Was that confusing? Of course it was, because this is a ghost cube. Ghost cubes are among the toughest modifications or mods that you can solve. So, given this whole ghost cube thing concept, Crazy Bad Cuber, Dan Fast, had the brilliant idea of saying, well, why don't we do the same thing with the 3x3x4? Let's take this off center, like so, chop it down, and create a ghost version of that. In this case, it's the Heavens Cuboid. So this top move here can't be accessed with this. You have to access it here. So this top move is equivalent to this. This second layer is equivalent to this. And this third layer is equivalent to this. And this is the bottom layer here. So you can see how it sort of lines up like this. So it sort of looks like it's at an angle. This is a flat top, and this top comes out because it looks like it's melded with the corner. But it gets more difficult because this actually represents this position here. So this and this are equivalent. And I can't move in this position over here any more than I can move this position or this position. Doesn't work. What I have to do to make this turn is I have to turn this off center. So here's the center over here. This is the central piece. Edge, 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 corner, 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 corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to match this with an edge on this side. Well, where is the edge? It's hard to tell, but I'm going to say this is an edge here. This is not just below an edge over here either. This is an edge. So I'm going to turn this down here to match this edge. And then I'm going to just skew this over here so that this edge matches this edge over here. Once I do that, then I can do this move over here, and that's equivalent to this move. So I'm finally able to do this move over here, and then I can move this in that direction as well. So before I had no access to these moves when it looked like a cube. I didn't have access to these moves over here. So basically, getting this back into the cube shape, if I wanted to move down the long side of the puzzle, I have to match my edges. Say I'll match it like here, and now I can do it. Got to match it up just right. And once I do that, here it is, I can turn this part around here. So you can see how this can get pretty crazy because I don't have colors to guide me. I don't even have shapes to guide me because every one of these shapes is different. None of these shapes are equivalent. Here, centers look like centers. They have different stickers, but they look the same. Corners look the same, edges look the same, and not only do they look the same, but I've got colors to guide me as to where things are supposed to be. So how the heck am I supposed to solve this when every piece is different, and even after I solve it, I have to solve it like this off center before putting it back into the cube form. So what we're going to do is go through the technique of how I do this particular puzzle. So the first step is I'm just going to go through a full scramble. So I'm going to pull this over here, pull this over here. Now that I have it lined up, this is actually in a form like this that can be moved around. Just move this over here. So now I'm going to take this. Now, just like any cuboid, I can't move it here and make a turn any more than I can move this here and make a turn. So it still follows the same law of cuboids. There's no difference with this. So I can only do 180-degree turns in this direction. So the challenge of this puzzle is not because the properties are different. The challenge is because my perspective has to be skewed. So I'm going to jump into the deep end here and start to make 180-degree turns here. Now that I've done that, see, I have to see where I'm at, and bottoms can become tops and tops become bottoms. I can move this over here. I'll take this and take this out of the way over here. So now I'm pretty much committed to the scramble. Ain't nothing I can do about it. This thing is done for. So I'm just gonna continue doing that, and very quickly you can see, because I don't really have any basis of comparison, as I start moving pieces away from each other, I can very easily get lost, which is what I have. But I'm going to keep scrambling this up until we get a very typical looking ghost scramble. Turn this over here, maybe turn this guy here twice. And I'm trying to move all these pieces that are in proximity to each other, that look like they belong to each other, away from each other. And then we'll talk about how the heck I'm going to solve this. And yes, it's just like the previous solves. I'm going to use the same techniques. But what's fun about this is I get to use what I would call, let's move this away from here first, deductive reasoning in order to kind of figure out where things are supposed to go. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a good scramble. Now you can see how smoothly this moves. Now to those who are new to the channel or new to the concepts, to describe more about this puzzle, this is three-dimensionally printed. This is actually put on a printer. This is made of a nylon type material. It came out as dust and was basically made on a three-dimensional printer after this was designed on a computer with CAD designing, put to an STD file, and then assembled in this position. And this technique that's used is a way to get puzzles that are almost impossible to design yourself. You've seen examples of designed puzzles from those that do modifications such as Trey Poom or Tony Fisher. This is a different kind of a thing. Brilliant in its own way, but different. Okay, a little bit more of a scramble. Separating things out. Okay, so what do we think? This is a nicely scrambled ghost type 3x3x4 or Heaven's Cuboid. So how shall I solve this? Now there's a reason why I went through the solve strategy of this guy the way that I did it. The way that I used to do it is I used to solve this as a 3x3x2, solving these two and then solve these two. That wasn't a big problem because I can tell what was supposed to go where here based upon the color scheme of the top and the bottom. I can't do that here. So first off, what's my top and what's my bottom? Well, I turn this over here and I can get a look at the structure. I can see two center pieces here. There's an axis within the center here. So I know that this moves like this. So this is the side here. Over here when I turn it, I see a centerpiece over here. So already I can tell that this is a top, this is a bottom, and these are the layers in between. So you can sort of see the structure here. This turns here, this is this layer here, here, and here. So, and now I'm having an easier time finding where the edges go with which edge. Now, to solve this puzzle, at first what I tried to do is I tried to solve the middle areas here and then the top and the bottom. Do this like a 3x3x2. The problem with that is I could solve these two layers here, but I would have no idea of knowing what's supposed to be the top and what's supposed to be the bottom. In other words, if I solve this whole layer here, is it supposed to be here or is this solved area supposed to be up here? So what I was doing is I would solve these two just fine, then I'd solve the top and the bottom, but to do the final move, I'd have to turn it back off center so that it can be back in its cuboid form. And I found that the top and the bottom were not correlating with the middle two because I put them in upside down. And I had no idea that I was putting it upside down because I didn't have the top and the bottom to guide me. In other words, I didn't have anything to calibrate the position of the puzzle. So I needed to prevent that. I needed to find a way of preventing that. So I needed to solve a side that could calibrate the puzzle. So what I started to do is to solve it layer by layer by layer by layer. And that's why I solved it that way over here, just so I can demonstrate in this video how I'm going to do this one. So that's what I'm going to do. By solving this layer, I can then correlate what this is supposed to be because then it can line up with the layer over here. If I solve this layer as is, I won't know if it's going to line up with this layer or if it would line up with this layer, not without solving these first. So what I'm going to do is show you what the heck I mean. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, as though in a vacuum, I'm just going to solve one of these two layers here, the top or the bottom. I'll do this one. So I'm going to start lining up edges in terms of where I think they should go. Do a little bit more of a scramble here. Okay. So I'm going to start off here. I've got a long angulated piece, not unlike this over here. But I don't see it down here. Obviously this is the wrong one. It's angulated. So here's another long angulated piece here. So I'm going to turn this over here, line it up correctly, and I'll move it in and see. And splat, there it is. So this is the correct piece over here. So I'm going to next do this here. This sort of has a long, straight angulation over here, but it's a straight piece, much like this. But if you look closely, it doesn't quite line up. So it's got to be perfect or else it's not going to work. So I'm going to look for another piece that's like that. How about this guy? It's also straight, it's also angulated. It's a little smaller than this because this one overhangs. This is probably the right one. I'm just going to move this down. Turn this into place. And move this up and see if we like it better. And it falls maybe just a little short, but I think it works a little better. So I'm going to say for now that this is it. What about here? Well, here with this centerpiece, it's angulated. Just like this is angulated, but you can see this doesn't work. This is not angulated, so therefore it must be here somewhere. Here's an angulated piece, and here's an angulated piece. Let's try this one. Will this fit snugly into here? Double turn, and no, you can see it doesn't. So I need something bigger. This is nice and big, so I'm going to turn it, and let's turn this guy into here and see if that works. So it's very much like a twisty puzzle, jigsaw puzzle, and bang, perfect. Not only is it angulated right, you can see the stickers line up. So we're doing well. Just so happens this corner seems to be lined up also. So now we just have to do this. It's another angulated center. Maybe to line up with this guy. So let's turn this and kersplat. So this is good. So I basically have my edges over here, so that's fine. And I have a little gift. This one is already in place. This corner is actually in place here too. Now I want you to notice something as well. I want you to notice that there's another key difference between this kind of a puzzle and this. Aside from the fact that it's one color and every piece looks different, understand that the centerpieces now have a little bit more complexity to it. These centerpieces are flat, which means you can rotate it, and every rotation is exactly the same. If I rotated this piece by 180 degrees or by 90 degrees, you wouldn't know it and you wouldn't care because it looks the same. Now imagine what would happen if I took this piece and I rotated it by 90 degrees. It wouldn't fit with these guys. So it's the very specificity of this rotation that causes this to have a characteristic that we call a supercube, or in this case a supercuboid. A supercube is simply a cube where the position of the center has meaning. Here the position of the center has no meaning. The rotation doesn't. But not so with this. If this is the center, obviously if I rotate this out, it's not going to fit. It's not going to look quite right. So a supercube is where, based on the shape or by the color, if there's a multiple color patterns in it, like in a picture cube, the orientation or the rotation means something that adds complexity. So that's a supercube. This is a supercuboid. It's going to come into play a little later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my swinging U technique to get the corners in. Now I can't have color guide me as to what corner goes in, so I have to vaguely look at the shape, and that's going to be difficult. So what shape comes to here? Well, let's see. Is it this tiny one here? Probably not, but it might come next to here. So let's see what might fit here. Not this guy. Let's experiment and see if it's this guy. So I'm going to put this just opposite, and I'm going to do my swinging U technique. So we'll do a got to line it up just right. That's a 2R. And you see it fits nice, fits perfectly. So because it does, I'm just going to keep going. So that's 2R. Then I'm going to do a UI to put it in the L position. Whoops. Then 2L. Now I'm going to swing it back to the R position. And then do a 2R. Then swing it back to the L position to bring it back for a 2L. And like magic, it's in. So they're both in. So now we keep going. What belongs here? Well, let's see. It's not this one. This one has a home over here. So I'm going to let that go. How about this little arrow? So I'm going to swing it in. And I find it's got the basic shape, but it's really the wrong size. So it's not this little arrow. So I'm going to just move it back. I've got this arrow, which is the same shape. So I think this one probably belongs over here. But it's up on the wrong place on this side. It's got to be permuted or shifted over to here. So I'm going to let that go for now and put one into here so I can take this out. So which one belongs over here? It's going to be a long piece. Maybe it's this one, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's this guy. So let's put it into position. So understand I'm doing no new techniques. So this to here, let's see if it works. Turn it in and splat. Looks good. So I'm going to keep going. I did my 2R. Swing it to the L position, 2L. Now keep doing our dance. Swing it to the R, 2R, swing it to the L, 2L. So you see the shape is emerging here. The side is emerging over here. All right, now this one. Well, what about the bigger arrow? This was the smaller one. Triangle rather. This is the bigger one. So I'm going to move this into position and now see if this works. 2L, 2R rather, yep, perfect. So I'm going to do my swinging technique, turn to here, do my 2L, turn here. The good thing about this is a way of putting this in without messing up any of the other sides once I get them. Bring this here and curse splat. Okay, so as you can see, this side has been solved. I now have the top side here. So it's got a nice little shape to it. And now it's a matter of filling these in. So this will become my calibrator. This will orient me as to which goes where. And what my technique here is I'm going to first find areas that are combined together. So here is a center and an edge and a corner, edge and a corner. How do I know that this is supposed to be here and not here? The only way to know that is if this matches with this side. So I'm going to turn this around until I see if it matches in here. Not here, turn, and aha! You can see that this lines up nicely here. What that tells me is that this pair belongs down here, not up here. Now I see a pair over here. Does this belong down here? Well, let's turn this around to see if it matches anywhere, and it doesn't. So what that tells me is these two pair over here belong up here and not down here. So I'm going to let this calibrate the rest of this side. First off, I have to put it into ghost position. So edge matched up with edge. And now what are we going to do? Well, what I want to do, if this is an edge, I want to match corners on both sides. I've got a corner here, so I want to put the corner here. I'm going to put this in the top position like I did over here. And I'm going to put the corner into here, see if it comes from down here or up here. For all I know, the corner that belongs here is up here somewhere. So what's a good contender? Maybe this on this side. So I'm going to treat this layer the same way I treated this layer. I took from this bottom part what belongs up here. So too I'm going to take from this middle portion here, this bottom middle pieces, to this middle layer here. So I'm just going to take this has become my bottom, and this has become my top. So I'm going to move this independently, but I'm going to double turn like so and see if this matches, and you can see it doesn't. So I'm just going to move it right back. So I'm just going to keep going. Move this over here. How about this guy? Well, let's check it out. Turn. Nope. Get rid of it. We'll keep going. And how about this over here? Double turn, and yeah, so that's perfect. That's good right there. So where this came from, this came from here. So I'm just going to continue with that. So this is my 2R. Now I'm going to swing my U to bring this R into the L position, but I don't want to move this top because I just moved this piece here that was here. I just moved it down here, so I don't want to move that position. So I'm just going to move this here from the L position, or rather from the R position to the L position, just this layer. Now I'm going to do a 2L, kersplat. Now I'm going to bring this back to a R position, and now I'm going to do a 2R. Now notice this top is just seeing 2R, 2L, 2R, 2L. That's all it's seeing, so you're not messing it up. So 2R, that brings this back. Now I'm going to move this to the L position, like so, just this layer, and got to line it up just right, 2L. So this top just saw 2R, 2L, 2R, 2L, no worries. But this middle, basically all these were put in. So if you can see this all matches over here. And I can turn this around just to prove it to ourselves that this is where it's supposed to be. You can see that this top part is now matching with these three pieces here. We'll just move this a little off center so this edge can match with this edge. Okay, so I have this slice in, so now what? Well, now what I'd like to do is I'd like to start putting in other slices here. So what I need to find is I need to find what center goes here. It's obviously not this one because it doesn't line up with this. It could be this, but we kind of doubt it because look how far out this is, and this is pretty flat. So let's see if we can find out what goes over to here. What if it's this? Is it this center? I would say no, because this corner matches with this center. So if I were to move this to this layer, I'd have to turn it around. This would occupy this slot. So it can't be the center. I can move on. Now maybe it's this center, which is a possibility. This center might belong here, but we're not sure. Okay, what about this center? Well, it's possible. So just to get a perspective again, I want to see if this belongs up here. So actually what I'm going to do is turn it to this side here. What I'm going to do is take this corner and move it to this center and see if it fits. So match it up, double turn, and you can see it doesn't. So it's not that center. So I'm going to keep moving centers. What about this one, this center? I'm going to do the same thing. Move it, and aha! You see that this center matches this corner over here. So I'm going to move this back, because what that tells me, as I move this back over here, is that this center belongs up here. Rather, this edge belongs up here because it fit flush with this. So how am I going to move this here without taking this out? So what I'm going to do to move this in here without destroying this is I'm going to take this and move it down here. I'm going to get this out of the way, and you're going to see why in a second. So I'm going to move this out of the way over here. So this center, which belongs over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and take this out of the way by moving it down here. So splat. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm now going to take this and move it into this position over here. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to move this into position just below where it's supposed to be here. I'm going to move this to the side, and I'm going to move this to the side because I want to get this back up to here, and I can flip-flop these two. This is now nicely out of the way. I'm going to line it up, make sure everything is where they're supposed to be. Gets a little snaggy sometimes, and double turn. Okay, this is where it needs to be over here. Now all I've got to do is I've got to take these sets here and move it into this position, move it into this spot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way, move this set of 3 out of the way by 2, take this down, 1, 2. Now I'm going to move this into position, 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is not algorithm driven, it's strategy driven, even if I'm not pronouncing it this late at night. Now move all this back up, splat. So what did that do? That brought this back, and now that brought this into position. Lest you think that was overly complicated, it really wasn't. I knew it had to go here, I just had to duck this out of the way while I move this in and then bring it back up. So no algorithms were needed. So now the next step, now that I have these, is I want to move the corner over here, and I'm going to do it the same way. What corner plausibly belongs here? Well, is it this? I don't think so. Well, possibly. If it is this, then this center belongs up here too. So we're not sure. Is it this? Well, if it's this, then this center belongs up here as well. So I'm going to take this and move it to here and see if it works. Double turn, and as you can see, no. Doesn't work. So I'm going to go around and just arbitrarily find another one. Double turn, and no. Doesn't work. So do another one. Double turn, and that doesn't work. And I think I'm running out. Double turn, and aha! There it is. So this one is the one. So actually I didn't have to stop, I'm just going to keep going. Do the 2R. Now do a U just for this layer. Do my U move, which is actually, in this case, well, that is a U move. Bring it to the L position, and then 2L. Bring it back to the R position, 2R. Bring it to the L position, and 2L. And then what you find is it's in. Good, 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 good. So now we have a huge bulk that's done. All right, so we have almost all these in. All we have left is this slice over here. So what's left? Well, I know this is the wrong center. I know this is the wrong center, and I know this is the wrong edge. These are edges. So this is the wrong edge. This is the wrong edge, and this must be the wrong corner, because this corner belongs with this edge, which is the wrong one. So it's somewhere down here. So let's see what's supposed to be here. I'm looking for a center. Is it this center? Well, the way to find out is actually it couldn't be this center because it couldn't be this edge rather, because this corner would occupy this slot and it's spoken for. So I know it's not that. How about this as a contender? Possibly, so we'll file that. This is possible. And this is possible. So let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can't put this in position. So I'm going to move this over here and see what this corner lines up with. Will it line up with this edge? So line it up here, 2R, and yes. So this is the correct center. So this center belongs next to this. This center belongs in this position, or this edge. I keep saying center because it looks like this, but this edge belongs in this position over here. So how am I going to do that and coordinate that with this? Well, I can't get as complicated as I did last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to bump this out of the way here, and I'm going to do it the same way I did with this puzzle here. I'm going to destroy this for a second, but that's okay. I'm going to double turn this, move this edge in, and turn it back. All right, now that I have this back, I want to take the piece that I put down here and put back in. I think it might have been this, or it might have been this. I think it was that actually. So I'm going to move this to here, and then take this corner and see if it belongs with this edge, which I think it does. So double turn, and there it is. So that's my 2R, swing my U to the left, 2L, swing my U to the right, 2R, and swing my U to the left again, and 2L. So we got that in. Now we just have these two. So the moment of truth. What belongs here? Well, this center is nice and large, just like this. This edge, rather, is nice and large, just like this corner. But so might this be. So let's see what actually can fit. I'm going to move this into position, say over here, so that way I can line this up to see what edge piece it belongs to here. I'm going to double turn and kersplat. It's this. I have found it. So I found the last edge piece that belongs up on this side. So I want to move it into position here. There's no way to do that without taking one of my corners out, so that's okay. I'll just double turn like so. Double turn here. Move this into position and double turn. Okay, now that we've done that bit of damage control, let's see what can go where. It's not this one, it's spoken for. It might be this one over here. Let's turn it in and see what happens. Double turn, and nope, that's obviously not it. But I'm wondering if it goes here. So I'll move this like so. So you see what I mean about being perspective bending. Double turn, and yes, this belongs here. So I'll keep my swinging U technique, move it to the left, double turn, move it to the right, double turn, and move it back to the left. And double turn. Okay, so this is in. I just have this one to go. Let's find one that probably fits. Maybe it's this corner here. Double turn, and nope, not that one. Maybe the one right next to it. Line it up. Double turn in, yeah, that's the one. To the left, double turn, back to the right, double turn, and back to the left, double turn. So what we see now is this layer is done. This layer is all in, and just to be on the safe side, we can turn this top layer and see if it correlates, if it's calibrated, and it is. You see that all these pieces line up with this. So let's take this out of that position, and now we do these layers.